Hey listeners, we're back with another episode of LFG with A and B. But this time it's only A because B decided to have a last minute thing to do and is not present. Oh, fucking Bob. Anyways, going to the show content, straight to the content. We got a special guest here today. One of my close friends, who I've known for many years. He is the founder of the Acid Drip, Mr. Keenan Fry.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Keenan. I'm the founder and owner of the Acid Drip LLC. It's a graphic design company, and I'm just like a scumbag gutter punk from the South Bay. I've known this jackass since the 8th grade. We went to the same middle school together, and I'm going to tell you guys some embarrassing stories about my buddy here. So,
oh, joy.
In my cell phone Rolodex, if you guys are old enough to know what a Rolodex is, you got your contacts and shit. So Amir is listed as douchebag, and so I'm going to tell you the douchebag story. So the douchebag story, me and Amir, we were freshmen in high school. We had this history teacher, and we got into some bullshit argument, started yelling at each other. And then finally, he called me an asshole, and I said, "Shut the fuck up, douchebag." And Miss Reed, who was our history teacher, this is freshman in high school, and she says, "What did you just say?" And she just points right at me. It's like laser eyes. And she pulled me into the office, and then she had me like Bart Simpson right on the whiteboard, the definition of douchebag, 100 times in red pen. And then she came back at the end of lunch and made me read them. She had a ruler, and she pointed at the first one. I had to read it. And she pointed at the second one. I had to read it. So I had to read the definition of douchebag 100 times. And to this day, I still don't know what the definition of douchebag is, except this guy right here.
Hey, Amir Moore, douchebag, same thing. Okay, we get the point, asshole. That's a great story. I fondly remember that story too. And the moral of the story: be the retaliator. Don't be the retaliator. I mean, be the one to start it, not the one to end it. Because in this case, you're always gonna be.
If you make enemies, make sure you kill them.
No, that's not what we're promoting here. But yeah. Anyways, we want to, I want to use this segment to go through some of Keenan's art. Keenan does designs, does graphic designs. He also actually does art himself, which he can elaborate on, and because I would not do justice trying to explain it. So please, Keenan, tell the listeners a little about what you do and what inspired it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to preface a few things because I think that when you talk about art, it's interdisciplinary. You're talking about all of your aspects of life influencing you. I started as an artist when I was 6 because my grandfather was a painter. He was an oil painter. He was also a fireman for the San Francisco Fire Department, so he worked in the city. He was a veteran of the Korean War, and his status as being a veteran got him into the SF department. And interesting story, because he was a fireman and the respirators weren't so good back then, the chemicals running into the burning buildings affected his eyesight, and it eventually made him blind. So actually, I was taught art by my effectively blind grandfather. He wasn't like totally blind, he was legally blind. So he developed these weird cataracts, and this was prior to his passing, but I was very little, and he taught me how to do line confidence, which is when you're drawing with your hand. It's how you move your hand so that the line comes out with a degree of what they call confidence. What that means is the line is consistent, it has a nice arc, it has grace to it. And so, it's kind of goofy to say, but my blind grandfather taught me art. It's a weird one. And there's going to be a lot of kind of like prodigal moments in this story.
Well, I mean, going off that point, though, you think about it actually with art, right? Some of the most famous people in art, I mean, think of Beethoven, think of,
Well, that's
I mean,
music.
I know, but that's a form of art, right? So, like, you can say that actually some of the most famous people, they didn't necessarily have all their senses, but they were so fine-tuned in other ways that, it actually lended itself to the art that they're doing.
Yeah, and that's the interdisciplinary nature of it. So like I'll tell you a few other things. So technically, I entered an art competition when I was 10, and that was my first art competition. I got an honorable mention, and then everything afterwards was kind of like downhill from there, and not like downhill like snowball, kind of gain momentum and go forward, but downhill like fall down a flight of stairs and break your face. There was, my upbringing was kind of rough, but I stuck with art no matter what. I didn't have too many teachers. I remember going back to high school again. I had teachers who said things to me like, I like my hamburger medium rare and my fries extra crispy. Had a lot of experiences like that. Paid to go to art lessons and stuff, and teachers would treat me in that fashion. And so I never really had a teacher. I didn't really get any lessons until I worked with Noah Buchanan, who is he's been hosted by the Royal Academy of Scotland or something like that, and he's a fellow over there. He studied in New York. Noah Buchanan's art's very influential on my own aesthetics because he's a figure drawing artist in the Renaissance style, and so like I do a lot of weird psychedelic art. So like here I am ping-ponging around between Renaissance art and psychedelic stuff. The psychedelic stuff was me as a kid having no guidance, no direction, and just like drawing things that I could draw, influenced by like cartoons, Beavis and Butthead when I was a kid, and seeing like the weird freak out scene where Beavis eats the cactus out in the desert and then he starts hallucinating, and then there's stuff in The Simpsons and things like that. So I was kind of like this weird cultural melting pot of all these like cartoons and stuff. And then I went to Noah's class when I was 27, first time I ever really got art lessons. And it was like kind of an awakening for me because I was learning like traditional figure drawing art. And I still work on it, but I don't work on it as much as I'd like to. Some other things I do, I talk about being from the South Bay. I had the pleasure of taking guitar lessons from Chris Lee in this band Kinetic. I'm actually wearing a Behold the Desecration shirt. This is from the South Bay, BTD, old school fucking South Bay death metal.
San Jose represent.
Yeah! I went to San Jose State for my undergrad. You went there for your grad school.
Yep, it's SJSU Spartans, baby.
Yeah, so, the Bay Area is cool because there's a lot of different cultures, a lot of different art, and I really dig the fact that it all kind of melds together. So before I transition into talking about some of the music, maybe I can talk to you guys some about my art and show you guys some of the stuff that I do.
Yeah, we're gonna look at some of his art, and as we do so, we're gonna have Keenan, explain some of the, the meaning behind it, and obviously his meaning behind it. Art is, as we've discussed previously, and I'm sure we'll discuss again, is up to interpretation. But the artist always has something they want to put forth, and it'll be great to hear, Keenan's, journey as he made this artwork, and also, what he wants to tell the listeners about it. So let's get it started.
Yeah, this is me working in a vector format. This is Adobe Illustrator. So the drawing you see on the white background was done in hand on a piece of paper. I'm doing a font project, so I'm doing an entire case set. This is kind of like more in my art style. I draw everything by hand, scan it in the computer, and then I render it in vector. And vector is a scale format, so you can make it as big as you want. So raster is limited. You can't make it big. You can't really make it too small. So again, this is vector. It scales well, so you would eventually be able to type in like a Microsoft Word format with this. But these letters are 8.5 by 11 natively, so the smaller you make them, the more detail you lose. But they're designed to be, these big plates. So I'm going to kind of make a cool transition here into something else, but we're going to keep talking about this. I actually am in school at San Francisco State to teach blind folks Braille and cane skills. So I work in special education. I'm not exactly the most like rational individual. Right now I'm pulling up a video of what it is I'm listening to while I'm editing the drawing. I always talk about what it is I'm listening to while...
the intersection of music and art. I mean, again, like, it all it it all comes together in terms of muses and things that influence you, and yeah, I totally get it.
So this is the Meshuggah portion of Straws Pulled at Random. This is the big like crescendo moment, and I'll listen to a loop for like 3 hours straight while I draw, and it kind of is like a meditative thing. So I'm just talking about that right now in this clip. I don't know if you want to like skip ahead a little bit to where I'm drawing again, but anyway, the point of it is I started teaching blind folks, and one of the things about working with the blind is that obviously they have an impairment for engaging in art and a lot of visual formats. One of the things they talk about is accessibility. So I was doing this vector art back in 2018. I got into the program at SF State in 2020. And so I'd been doing this for a long time, but it turns out that this art style actually lends really well to 3D printing and laser etching. So what I'm hoping to do eventually is take these letters that I've been drawing and etch them into steel plates and have the edges beveled so that it's a smooth edge, it's a nice etch, laser etch into the cold roll steel, and then hand that off to an art gallery. And then normally when you go to a gallery, you look at the art and you're not allowed to touch it, but the idea is to make something tactile, and so you could trace along the lines with your fingertips and feel the actual drawing. You could see the depth of it and everything, but you could also touch it and you could interact with it. And I'm exploring other ways to make art kind of accessible to the blind. And it was just kind of happenstance. A lot of my life is just serendipity. I have had a lot of wonderful opportunities working with people. I mentioned Chris Lee from the South Bay. I worked with him, and then through working through the South Bay, I ended up working with some people on Atlantic Records. I did press and media for them. Worked briefly with Clean Bandit. They won a Grammy in 2015. I did some publicity for them.
Clean Bandit has done that famous song "Rather Be."
Right.
For the
song
listeners.
they won the Grammy for. I worked with them. I did an interview with the Academy Award-winning director John Borman in my undergrad years, and all of it was just me, living hand to mouth and working hand over fist to earn a reputation and to work with people who I admired, and just being willing to do whatever it took to get by. We used to have. We used to joke about the 7-Eleven steak special, which was, the 2 hot dogs that you get for $5, and you get tomatoes and onions. And we used to live off of hot dogs, tomatoes, and onions in San Jose, and I lived in my car.
I mean, we know the college student ramen joke, right? So this
right.
is the equivalent. I get it.
Yeah, that's the 7-Eleven steak special. You get the $5 hot dog, you put all the toppings on it, and that's your vegetable. So I lived in a car for 18 months. I interned for Metro newspapers. I worked for the Sofa Street Fair Music Festival, a really big festival down in San Jose, produced by a friend of mine, Phil Maresca. I worked for Dan Plucrano in his newspaper. I remember working for John Ha, who was the advertising director, Jimmy Arsenault, who was the former booking agent at the Rock Bar.
Rock Bar, man, I remember that.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool people that I all stumbled into, and they were wonderful, and they were kind to me, and I feel grateful for the opportunities I've had, but it's been difficult. So all the while stumbling around, I've been making art, been doing music, I've been writing for my website. My website is kind of a place where I post my thoughts, but it's also obviously a business, and I've done album covers for the band Aspen Way. I did a t-shirt design for them, a logo design.
Yours truly has one of the t-shirts? Just FYI to the listeners, I still have that t-shirt.
Oh yeah, the Aspen Way. Yeah, I gave you one. Yeah. So I do print on shirts, stickers, posters. And all of it's mostly self-taught. I took a design class at the junior college with Vera Feinstein, wonderful lady. She was highly influential, very kind, very generous. And she failed me. So the only design class I've ever taken...
That lends itself to wonder how kind was she? Kind to be cruel in this case.
No, I totally deserve that. Remember, it's a mea culpa. When I fuck up, I try to own it. I'm not the best at things. I showed up an hour late. That's kind of the tendency is I show up late, but I stay late. And that's how I put in the work. I'm right now doing a Braille class, and I'm learning to write in Braille. I'm doing cane skills, and I'm a little behind in my work, and tonight I'm going to be pulling an all-nighter to get caught up. Hopefully my professors aren't listening to this, because what the fuck are you doing, Keegan? You're supposed to be working.
They'll be like, what is he doing going on this podcast? Like, what is he gaining from this? He should be working right now.
Yeah, they'll throw a brick at me, and I'd probably deserve it. Fucking Christ.
Can you talk a little bit, Keenan, since you mentioned it about the artistic process, and you kind of hinted at how it's a grind. Can you talk about the patience required for it? Because it seems like as we're watching this hyper loop go on, it just seems to me like there's a patience aspect to it, and a sort of like an acceptance aspect to it of like that it's gonna take a while, and like you have to come to terms with that.
So it is very tedious, and you have to be patient. In addition to doing all of this art that you're looking at, I played guitar for the last 15 years. I worked with Chris, who was in the band Kinetic. He was my mentor. Casey Gerlach, who is a very good friend of mine, also studied with Chris. He was the guy in Behold the Desecration, Lost to the Void, and Beyond Tragedy. Kevin Wilson didn't necessarily work with Chris Lee, but he was a friend of mine. He's in Black Passage. I'm doing a lot of plugs right now, but these are all people whom I owe a debt to, because these were all people who were really accomplished. Like, for example, Kevin Wilson lived in his truck down in L.A., and he used to do, like, the rockabilly thing where he'd have the big Elvis conked-up hair, and his buddy Brian would play stand-up bass, and then Brian had trackpad on the actual bass, so Kevin could climb on top of the bass and play, like, Brian Setzer licks while standing on top of the bass that his buddy was playing.
So what did you get from Kevin, like, that influences the way you do things, for example?
Well, the story about Kevin is that the biggest thing he ever did was play a show in front of, I think, like 5,000 people in that rockabilly band, and then it kind of folded on itself and collapsed. And then he went back to the North Bay from LA and started over, and now he's doing pretty well in Black Passage, which is, the remnants of Antisoptera and Behold the Desecration kind of merged together. And the moral of that is, more like the Aesop really, is that, like, when things fold, when the house of cards folds like origami, you have to not take that personally, because that process of failure is actually in itself the genesis of the next thing you're going to do. When something fails, it hasn't failed unless you give up, unless you quit. And that's when the process becomes most difficult, because when something fails, it's you taking something out of that failure, a lesson learned, some contacts made, a new skill, whatever it is, and putting it forward into the next thing that you're going to do, and that it's not really the thing you're doing now that matters, it's the fact that you're engaged in the iterative process. Something fails, you do the next thing. And I don't even think that any of those people I mentioned at all failed. Half the bands I know from San Jose collapsed. Valensaro is in and out, and all these other guys, Kinetic is in and out. But now all those people moved into new things. Like Kinetic is gone. That was Chris's band. Now he's in Earthcrawler. The guys who were in Valensaro are now running recording studios. They're doing new projects. They're going to do a reunion show. BTD went into Lost to the Void and went into Black Passage. So it's kind of like rising from the ashes, like a phoenix.
It's perseverance.
Right.
Yeah, that's literally what I'm getting out of it, perseverance. And actually, a plug back to the first episode, if the listeners remember, I actually said failure is in itself a form of success, because without failure, you don't learn the mistakes that lead to the success that you're going to have, that you're going to have come from it.
Right. The only form of failure is not doing something. The only way you're really just dead ass wrong is when you're not doing something. I'm kind of like a manic person sometimes. Like last night I didn't sleep very well, and I've been trying to get on a better sleep schedule. But because I'm constantly doing things, whether it's the acid drip or whatever, and so I work 2 jobs. I run the acid drip, which is really 4 jobs, because I manage the LLC, I manage the website, I manage my accounting, and then I actually make the art, the graphics, the YouTube videos. I edit everything myself, all that.
He does it all, folks. He does it all.
Which is why I'm crazy as shit. But I do that. Then I teach special education. I work with kids in post-secondary, which are kids who have graduated high school, without a diploma who are not college track, and we are teaching them to work in the community to get jobs so that they can support themselves.
Yeah.
I teach them
really important work. Like, it definitely goes unnoticed. I just want to really make that point that, like, you know, I've told him also in person as well, you know, one-on-one, that, like, this is, you know, work that is very crucial, and oftentimes, in my opinion, doesn't get paid enough. People do not get paid enough for the work they're doing, but the impact and the benefits it has on the kids and on the people that it's helping is, I think, priceless.
It's important to recognize that the real part of the job is human dignity, giving the kids a feeling that they're actually in the community, they have a job, even if it's a small one, working at Old Navy folding clothes, which is commonly what our kids end up doing. The bigger picture of that is they're not in an adult program where they're being babysat. Their parents don't have to worry about where it is they are, what they're doing, so the parent can go do their job. The kid earns a bit of money and then can spend that money on whatever it is they want. They're probably, in most cases, not going to earn enough to make rent, but they'll get subsidized living assistance from, the regional center, whichever one that they're enrolled in, which is kind of how those services are doled out through the state and federal government. Mm-hmm. And then the big thing, though, is you're teaching them to overcome learned helplessness, that they can do something, they can dignify themselves, they can engage. And so that's something I've always been about, because, I always struggled learning things. I always struggled developing these skills. You know, like I said, it's been, 25 years for me to learn how to do this art. It's been 15 years of studying music. It's been like 20 years of writing. I have now something like 500 hours of YouTube content. I have over 75 articles on my website.
That's a lot of content for those that don't realize.
So let me. I'm gonna go on a bragging streak. 500 hours on YouTube, 75 or plus articles on the website. That's more than 1,000 pages written, and I just keep at that. I'm getting a 3.3 average at SF State. It's not great. It's not bad. It's more than enough for me to get my master's, my teaching credential. I do TVI, O&M, special education masters, and I just am doing everything that I can to keep going, because I just want to keep moving, and I feel like I'm the byproduct of a small select group of people supporting me, my family, my friends, like this douchebag here, and I want to provide that to the kids that I work with, and hopefully this doesn't get me in trouble, because I'm supposed to present like a clean shaven face when I'm at work, and I'm kind of grubby and uncouth here, but the presentation that I do here.
Clean shaven face. Who's that?
yeah, not me.
Oh, are we talking about the same Keenan Fry? I think I found an imposter.
Well, the way I present myself to the kids is very different than here, but I try to teach them those same lessons. I teach swimming to the kids. I do water rehab therapy. I've taught kids how to walk. I've taught kids to hold a spoon and feed themselves. So I do a lot of work in that capacity, and I feel like that's what makes me successful, because I do a lot of other things for other people, and I do a lot of things for myself. Mm-hmm. But the people I've known who have strictly worked for themselves, who have strictly worked, for the intent and purpose of meeting their own goals, meeting their own ends, they always end up really burnt out. I get a renewal of energy from the fact that I work with other people. And the advantage of working with other people and working to help other people out, when I first started working in special education, it was an accident. I was working as a publicist, and I had to jump ship. My boss didn't pay me. I was owed $5,000, and I wasn't paid. And I had no money in my bank account, and I was about to go back to like living in my car, and I was just kind of like scratching my head, and I called up a buddy of mine, Anthony Miller. Anthony, I'm dragging you into this. Name dropping people, they're all like, God, I don't want to associate with this asshole. But yeah, Anthony Miller, I called him up, he picked up, God, thank you, Anthony. God bless you. And he picked up, and I said, hey, man, I need a job. Do you know anyone who's hiring? He says, yeah, we need substitute teachers. So in 2017, I made the transition out of working for music festivals and working in the entertainment industry, started substitute teaching, and then I had my bachelor's, and I took a long-term sub-assignment at my current work placement, and they said, you know, we really like what you're doing. You've got a degree. Would you consider getting a credential? And I said, yes. And it was because it was a needs-based request. It was like, we don't have enough staff who are credentialed. We need people to fill this role. And I said, sure. And I didn't know what I was doing. I don't know anything about TVI or O&M. I'm literally an idiot. But
no, I wouldn't go that far. I mean,
nah, man. I mean, I walk into those classrooms with the rest of the cohort members, and they are way smarter than me.
But you've got something though that some of them don't have, which is you've tasted what failure looks like, and you've tasted what it means to not have much, and you know the hunger aspect of it, because there's truly an aspect of it, and this is what I see with not just when it applies to art, but also like the job that you choose to do and like how much passion you put into it. Like I'm the same way in terms of if I don't have a hunger for something, like a innate drive to want to really put forth the effort it's gonna take, it's not gonna happen.
Intrinsic value.
Yeah.
It's about intrinsic value. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I found that by accident. Everything I've ever been successful at, I've stumbled into. But even though I stumbled into it accidentally and kind of incompetently, the thing that happened is I committed to doing what was put in front of me, doing it to the best of my ability, putting my full effort into learning the requisite skills associated, and just throwing myself at it. So I'm gonna. I know we're running out of time.
Yeah. So really quick, Keenan, I just want to know if you can tell the listeners, number one, how they can, what are the easiest way they can find your content. Number two, maybe just give a little plug for your content, like why listeners should go, see it. Like obviously we've done some of it, but I want the artist himself, the founder himself, to be, promoting it and giving it the due service it deserves.
Yeah, what I would say is, for starters, the Acid Drip, the website launched in 2017, and I'm rebranding it. So in the next week or so, there's going to be a brand new logo. There's going to be a brand new website. I'm working with a guy who is the web designer for PetSmart, PetSmart, I think. And he's making the website accessible to the blind and deaf as well, because, those are the kids I work with. But it's going to be a whole new front for the site, whole new logo. The storefront's going to be rebuilt, and then I will be doing a bunch of new art. So you can check that out in the next couple of weeks, theaciddrip.com. I'm on Instagram, and I have a Flickr page that all that's on my website. But like I said, in literally the next 2 weeks, the site's going to be completely rebranded. I built the site myself, did it all on WordPress. Now I'm actually getting somebody to really do it right. So, that's what I'm excited about in the next couple of weeks. And then I have to take my midterms for Braille, and holy shit, that's intense.
well, yeah. It's been great to have you, Keenan. We really appreciate you coming in, and I'm glad we got to go through not only your story, but also explore your content and see one of the videos and see sort of the iterative process that goes into it. And we will have the plugs and the links to his content under our on our channel, and you'll be able to access them, listeners. Yes, please do go visit his page.
Buy my stuff.
Yeah, and
I'm poor.
Do subscribe and like his content on his YouTube channel, and please do also follow him on Instagram. We really appreciate everybody, tuning in, and looking forward to connecting with you all on the next episode of LFG with A and B. Take care and talk to y'all soon. Peace out from Amir and more.